Hey, I'm Brendan Marcel. This is Michael Neislick. We cover Auburn for Auburn 24/7 Sports at auburnundercover.com.
We really coordinated our colors today. I like it.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's Tuesday, which means we spoke to Gus Malzahn, the head football coach of the Auburn University football program, in which their mascot is referred to as the Tigers, not the War Eagles. Gus Malzahn said the word different 12 times today.
Was it 12?
12. Every year's different, every game's different, every player's different, every hairstyle's different.
Well, what you have here.
Right. So we spoke to Gus Malzahn a little bit, spoke to Trey Matthews, spoke to Kerryon Johnson. Biggest takeaways from Gus Malzahn, I think, actually came near the end of the press conference, which, interestingly, included no mentions of the word different in his last 3 or 4 questions that dealt a lot with expectations, social media, and reading negative things in the press, and the SEC network he mentioned for some reason out of nowhere, even though they're paying the bills here. What did you take from that? And they're also his longest and most impassioned responses.
I started that off with a question.
Yeah, you really miffed him.
I did. Well, no, I asked him because he had talked about they had responded to adversity on Saturday. Texas A&M, when Texas A&M went up 13-7. At the end of the half, they responded with 2 touchdowns in 100 seconds, and that was kind of what is a defining moment. And I said, well, what was the difference between that game and then the ones that you kind of referred to as LSU and Clemson, where they didn't respond to adversity well, especially LSU, 20-0, and that's kind of what got him started. And up until that point, I mean, he was almost falling asleep, I thought, at the podium. He was very sort of no energy, no passion, and then finally got it. And for Georgia week, I was just kind of surprised just how little he was kind of putting into it. But then he got kind of fired himself up a little bit. And it's fun to see a coach kind of talk
give a crap
extensively about an answer, because, it was interesting juxtaposition. I went through and read Kirby Smart, how he broke down Auburn's offense and their resurgence, and he was giving much more detailed answers than Gus was when you were asking about some of the stuff, or other guys were asking about just how, what's going on with this offense. So good to see in Georgia week, he's alive, I guess. There's a pulse there.
Gus Malzahn's alive. Halloween is past, and Frankenstein's monster is
But don't you agree,
no longer afraid of fire.
For that first 10 minutes, he was just flatlining.
Yeah, he flatlines most press conferences. Yeah. They're pretty boring, and fans know that too. It's almost a waste of time to go to them and expecting to get information. But that's just how he is, and we go to ask questions just in case something like today happens, where near the end he's talking about social media and trying to block that out from players. I spoke to Kerryon Johnson outside for a little bit one-on-one about that, because he's one of the most popular players on Twitter and social media for this football program. He's also one of the funniest. And also just how he deals with negativity. I'm sure he gets it, and he says he does. And he pretty much summed it up with, none of those guys and none of those people tweeting at me can tackle. They can't play football, so I don't worry about what they say.
Right.
Which is probably a good way to look at it, really.
Sure.
Gus Malzahn, on the other hand, someone doesn't like how you coach and they have enough money, they get your ass fired. So it's a little bit different for Gus Malzahn.
But his timeline is weird. He's like the last 3 years with social media. Social media's been around longer than 3 years.
Yeah, social media Twitter has been around since like 2009, 2008.
Yeah.
So.
But I think it's more that when you're going good, you don't see it. Like 2013, you don't have to worry about it. Right now,
yeah,
it's a concern. So I think it's more just he notices it now, as opposed to then when, hey, new coach, new kid on the block, blowing up everything and doing well, you don't have much negativity around the program.
Yeah, I also asked him, I was like, hey, is this one of the biggest games for you in your coach career? And he said this game's not about him.
Yeah.
But it is in a lot of ways. Listen, you lose to Georgia.
What was the interesting stat you tweeted about his?
Gus Malzahn is 1-7 against AP top 10 teams since 2014. He was 3-2 in 2013, his first season. And of course, 2 of those wins were against Alabama and Georgia.
That's not a good stat, by the way.
It's not a good stat.
That's not a good stat.
Because Auburn fans, and as they should, expect a top 10 program. And I think that more than anything, for Gus Malzahn, the weird answer to that was, well, I've coached in a lot of big games. And I almost want to respond with, and you've lost them.
Yeah.
I think it's one win since 2014 against the top 10 team was that big win at Ole Miss.
Right.
Down the stretch. And then the very next week.
So has he lost the last 7? Was that the one?
I believe so. I'd have to go back and look, but I believe he's 0 for the last 7.
Yeah, that's not where you want to be. And if you're in the SEC, you're always going to coach big games because you're always going to go up against,
That's
one
why
or two
you
of the top
face.
teams in the
That's
top
why you
five,
face
top 10.
eight top 10 teams.
I mean,
in 3
so
seasons.
it doesn't just because you play them. It's not you're not playing them out of conference most of the time. Clemson,
3+ seasons,
is obviously an exception. But I mean, during the year, you're going to face Alabama, and Georgia. You can't. I mean, you don't get credit for that. That's your conference, right? I mean,
right. And the problem for Gus, and I wrote about this. We've talked about it on the podcast, is that he can either be SEC Coach of the Year or he could be fired this year, just based off what he does these last 3-4 weeks.
Absolutely.
It's really incredible. The line for error is so small for him between the two. But here's the thing. It isn't just about this season, as we mentioned. It's about his body of work.
You can't take it in a vacuum. You can't look at these 2 losses and say, well, these were good teams this year.
The problem is you should have beaten Georgia last year. You should have beaten the year before that. And you didn't. And then now this year, Georgia had time to build back up with a new coach.
They're a resurgence, absolutely.
They're one of your big rivals. So is Alabama. Alabama was already number 1 or number 2 every year you're playing them practically, and now Georgia's number 1, number 2, and geographically you're right in the middle of them between this red beard right here.
And Georgia has a lot of momentum with the quarterbacks they have and
the freshman quarterback starting for them, and
they've got
number 1 in the country.
Another guy that's backing him up. That's a 5-star that was a starter at the start of the year. So I mean, that's pretty good quarterback.
Yeah, you have one guy go down to injury, you might actually be better.
Yeah,
to be honest.
And look, that happened to Auburn last year, and look what that did not work out the same way with injuries.
Yeah, so it's this is tough 3 weeks coming up, but like we said, this is all built up over the last few years. There wouldn't be this much pressure on Gus Malzahn if he beat Georgia last season.
There wouldn't be this much pressure if they won that LSU game.
True. Yeah, if he had beaten LSU,
because you'd be in line for a top New Year's Six bowl if you were 9-3.
In a 9-3 season, absolutely.
And you're looking at already being in the top 10, and if you hadn't lost that game right now. So
I see a lot of commenters saying we hate Gus and everything. No, we're just laying out the facts and kind of explaining how he can survive or be Coach of the Year or possibly be fired. I mean, I don't think it helps his cause at all that the guy that hired him, Jay Jacobs, is on his way out. And we don't really know who's running athletics.
Surprised. So Jay Jacobs has hired him twice. Helped bring him in twice this program. And you asked him, one of our colleagues asked him about Jay Jacobs and we wish him well.
Yeah, Gus Malzahn's response about Jay Jacobs stepping aside here in the future sounded more like him responding to him dismissing a football player from his team.
Was that strange? I mean,
Very strange.
Just because he gave Gus a shot, brought him in.
All he said was, Jay hired me. I appreciate that. I wish him nothing but the best.
Literally, that was no emotion, no sort of personal anecdote, no sort of it's tough to see, because they've had a relationship going back. I mean, this is his second stint with the program.
They had a relationship.
Sure, but I'm just saying, gave him his chance, regardless of where they're ended up now. I mean, this is a Power 5 program, just surprising how little emotion there was for that.
It's very strange. In fact, because the colleague who asked it after the game Saturday against Texas A&M, he goes, "Hey, the one question we forgot to ask?" I said, Jay Jacobs.
No.
He's like, "Yeah, we should have asked." And I said, "Yeah, but do you really think you would have gotten a good answer?" And sure enough, today we did not. Because
Bruce Pearl reacted more emotionally on Twitter than
the thing is Gus and Jay aren't close anymore.
No, but I don't know. I just think when somebody gives you a chance to talk,
gives you a multi-million-dollar job.
You kind of can say something.
You can say something nice,
something more than just what you said when Sean White was dismissed for the team or Kyle Davis was dismissed for the team.
Very strange.
From the script. And it was just an odd moment. I mean, like you said, they're probably not as close, but just sort of strange.
They had a bit of a falling out over the last year. A year now.
But it gives you some insight into that, too, because when he's leaving, he can't even muster up any sort of emotion or kind-felt words. We wish him the best.
Just the way it is right now at Auburn.
Very
and listen, this place is going to be just like swirling trash in the sky, like in a comic book movie. Just a beam of light with trash in the sky.
I don't know.
Until they get a new athletics director and everything gets back together and then get all on the same page.
It's not cohesive, I guess, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just a bunch of stuff flying around and just nothing's good, it seems like.
Yeah, and it was just a strange
The only distraction Auburn can have right now is the football team to go out and build up and beat Georgia.
Yeah.
That's the only distraction. The football team winning right now. And then that will serve as a temporary
respite.
From everything else, the basketball program, the FBI investigation, the softball investigation, and then hiring an AD who come in and
the
go.
The track investigation.
What? Oh, well, the tiger statue allegedly being used as a weapon.
Yeah.
Just crazy times.
Do you think they've banned tiger statues in offices now?
I would ban anything over a pound.
Let's just can't swing.
Tiger statue, anything over a pound.
Here.
Get plastic tiger statues.
Yeah.
That look metal.
So that was just something interesting. Because that was the first time he had talked about Jay since the announcement. He hadn't posted anything on Twitter, didn't release any statements or anything.
Gus doesn't run his Twitter.
No, but he tells somebody, hey, post that.
Hey, what is he, a New Yorker? Hey, let's get over there and do that. Make sure I listen to avoid the Lincoln Tunnel this time of the day.
I could see Kerryon Johnson running 35 times, Cedric.
I could too, yeah, against Georgia. Certainly, it certainly could.
He'll get much of the next week after that off, so.
Right.
Again, no offense to ULM fans.
Well, ULM, I saw they're one of just a half dozen teams or something like that have allowed 30-plus points in the last 4 games.
Okay.
So ULM not doing very well. So this is a game where I think more than anything, like they did against Texas A&M, pull out all the stops.
Yeah.
Be aggressive. Heck, Georgia showed against South Carolina they're going to be aggressive. They opened the game off with an onside kick.
Yeah.
That's something.
It'll be fun. It'll be a fun game.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think I'm excited to kind of see some good football because we have not seen a lot of good football this year with these bad SEC teams.
I would be relatively surprised, to be quite honest, if Gus Malzahn is conservative in this game.
Yeah, well, I don't think he.
I think the expectation is that, but I think he knows he has to go against it. If he doesn't, but if he wins, it doesn't matter. But if he doesn't and they lose,
if they go into a shell
it's just gonna. I mean, it's just going to be raining very hard on his parade. Well, he doesn't have a parade.
He had a parade? Is there one scheduled?
No parade. Quickly about basketball. Austin Wiley returned to practice yesterday?
Saturday. So, yeah.
Saturday, excuse me.
We were out of town, so we didn't get to see it, but I did confirm he was out on the court. Non-contact practices Saturday and Monday. He was there. Today, he's going to be involved there in contact practice in at least some capacity. They'll kind of watch, see how much he can handle. Interesting. I talked to Bruce Pearl just for a few minutes, and he said, the plan isn't to kind of hide him and D'Angelo on the scout team necessarily kind of as this goes. They'll get real reps. They'll kind of mix him in, especially with Austin trying to get him back into game shape. Basically hasn't played in 3 months with both of his leg injuries kind of back to back. So they want him to get in shape just in case they get the call and they can play because, they're under the assumption that, hopefully this ends, sooner rather than later and then you have Austin ready. But at the same time, he might not. So it's just kind of a weird situation. He's practicing now and looked pretty healthy, but he's no closer to playing in that opener on Friday than he was before, even though he's healthier. And interestingly enough, yesterday news broke Colin Sexton, Alabama's prized freshman point guard, is not eligible right now, and
that wasn't surprising.
No, but their situation is different. They've applied now for reinstatement, and they're waiting on the NCAA to get it back. They're sort of tied into this with one of the assistant analysts
they
fired. So just things keep building with this situation, and I don't think it's going to end anytime soon.
No. So we'll have full coverage from practice. You'll be going to practice over the day.
And then they said players might be available today after practice, so look for that on
we'll see what's going on with that. So anyway, any questions you guys may or may not have about football, basketball, Gus Malzahn, anything else on your mind about Auburn, we'll take a few here before we jettison to our respective offices.
Ted says play them. There's a school of thought about that you take the wins away in 3 years, who cares? Honestly, I think that with the NCAA coming down so lenient on North Carolina with that major scandal, what can they do at this point? I think there is a group of people that believe that who cares if they take away wins in 3 years.
Kenny wants to know about injury updates. Offensive line, they sound, somewhat positive that they might get those guys back, but they don't know what lineup they'll go with or what.
They're not going to reveal it too.
They're not, and usually Gus Malzahn will go ask me Wednesday or Thursday. He didn't even do that today, so he's not going to say anything. Probably for the rest of the week, they're going to be keeping things close to the vest. But he kept saying and repeating, this is the healthiest They're really healthy at this point outside of Cameron Petway, and they're healthier now than they were compared to Georgia last year.
Well, he said, I think you asked him what was the difference between this game and the previous matchups against Georgia. He said, well, we're healthy and we have a healthy quarterback. And we couldn't say that the last 2 years. So,
yeah. Though they should have realized that going into the Georgia game last year and played John Franklin III.
No, that one was the halftime when he got hit.
Well, what I'm saying
2 years ago was they put in White remember when they put in White and he was not healthy with his leg and he could barely move?
Nailed knee, yeah.
Yeah, that was bad.
Last year they should have yanked him when they realized he couldn't throw the ball.
He got hit, and then they should have yanked him.
They should have yanked him.
Yeah. But he was good, I think, going into the game better than when he got pounded on that
He still
blitz.
wasn't doing so well injury-wise, though. He re-aggravated the shoulder.
Right.
So, anyway. But, yeah, they are healthier, obviously, at quarterback. But Georgia's a lot different from last year, too.
True.
I mean, their defense is incredible. So, that's a lot different. You say anything about KJ being beat up? No. And KJ looked fine. KJ seems very positive.
I mean, he's just going to be beat up at this point of the year after taking all these carries. He's just got bumps and bruises and being in the training room.
But he's definitely healthier. I mean, that hamstring doesn't seem to be an issue at all. So, the only thing you have to worry about with him now is getting a new injury or just being banged up and bruised. But every football player is.
Well, and he's talked about, given what he's been through, he's very aggressive in the training room and taking care of himself and conditioning. I mean, so he does everything he needs to do to stay healthy, especially considering what he's been through the last couple of years. So he's a guy that's not going to take anything for granted.
I think Kerryon might honestly be like the most motivated player on the offense at this point because he keeps talking about how, I'm losing more games now than I did in high school. I'm not used to that. And now he has a chance to firsthand change that.
Yeah.
He didn't get to do that last season because he was injured at this point
right.
or battling injuries. Now he's as healthy as he's been near the end of the season where he's taking the bulk of the carries, and obviously he is the guy taking all the carries now pretty much. The guy's pumped up and I think really motivated to want to get something done, do something special. And you could tell just by his runs against A&M late in that game, that guy was just throwing people around, stuff we hadn't quite seen from him. When he was still trying to, even 95% with that hamstring, and now he's just that's the great news for him. Even with Petway out, to have a running back as good as him at 100% at this point in the season is rare, unless you're Georgia. Georgia seemingly just always has a really great running back.
They've got a real good combination.
And they've got Sonny Michel and Nick Chubb and Elijah Holyfield. Is he a freshman? Just tremendous three players there, and there's a legitimate conversation of is Sonny Michel or Nick Chubb better, and they're just so dynamic. Mm-hmm. Do we think the O-line can hold UGA long enough to protect Stidham? That's a very big question, and it depends on what the lineup is and whether it works. I mean, they yanked a couple of guys because of injuries and other issues against Texas A&M early and replaced them, and they played a lot better after that. So. Can they go into the Georgia game and immediately have their best lineup out there? I think that's a big question.
And, what – because you don't want to be reevaluating in the first quarter what your best offensive line is.
Right, because Georgia could be up 14-0 after the first quarter, and you're playing catch-up, and you don't want to do that because then you have to be throwing the ball, possibly.
And Auburn did start really slow in that. That kind of gets ignored just because they put 42 points up.
Yeah, they scored 7 points up until the last
two first downs in the first quarter, so they struggled.
How good is Georgia, guys? I think they're deserving their number one
pretty good.
Ranking, don't you?
Yeah, pretty good.
I mean, they beat Notre Dame on the road and beat them
South
pretty well.
Beat a good South Carolina team.
That South Carolina team's stingy with their defense.
That might be one of the better teams in the SEC right now after it's kind of the top tier, right?
After the top 3 or 4? Yeah, probably. They're right in there.
So.
Definitely. Yeah, South Carolina's right up there. South Carolina plays Florida this week.
Yeah.
That could be ugly. A lot of people ask about slants and everything. We did see a slant, a quick pass against Texas A&M at one point. It worked. There was one route.
And they threw the running back a little more. Kerryon had
five catches.
So.
Gus was talking about how they've got this route that they call Chase, that Chip Lindsey brought in that they utilized against A&M that they really hadn't done all season. So they're tweaking, they're adding
and also
things.
have some. What was interesting, Kirby Smart said one of the things to watch that they know each other so well, that Kirby knows a lot of the run plays and Gus knows Kirby's defense because they've gone against each other basically every year since 2009, with 2012 is the only exception. So you got to break out those new wrinkles because these guys are very familiar with each other. I know, Chip's different, but I mean, this base offense, is very similar to what Gus has always run, especially the run plays. So I'd expect a new wrinkle or two.
Sure.
Especially going against a guy that they're very familiar with defensively.
Yep, and maybe Auburn runs a trick play.
Yeah.
What am I most excited to see this weekend?
A good football game. Yeah, I mean, man, Missouri, Ole Miss. What are the other some of the bad teams? Arkansas. Oh, jeez, try to put that one out of my mind.
Was weird, just not weird, horrible.
So yeah, we haven't seen a good game.
A&M was kind of shaping up to be.
Yeah, first half was really good, and then Kevin Sutherland just kind of pooped his pants. So. Took a turn there.
Well, he pooped his pants, and then Auburn said, "Well, we are just going to beat the crap out of you."
But really, I mean, that was bad. That was bad.
Bad coaching near the end for Kevin Sutherland. Great coaching by Gus Malzahn near the end of the first half, and it carried on. There, Auburn got the momentum.
That game was not close in the second half.
Yeah. Where does Auburn have the biggest advantage and disadvantage? I'd say Auburn's quote-unquote biggest advantage, even though it's not that wide. It's the defensive line against Georgia's offensive line. Biggest disadvantage might be Georgia's defensive line against Auburn's offensive line.
Sure.
Auburn might also have an advantage with the secondary, but guys like Nate Craig Myers need to do a better job of getting open, so at the very least, secondaries can start respecting him a little bit more. Because when you can completely eliminate him, that cuts things down.
I don't know what you're talking about, Brett. Credited Auburn?
Offensive line lineup, we don't know yet. It might be the same one you saw late, or not late, but late in the first quarter on at Texas A&M. Any other questions? One or two more, and then we're going to jet.
Did Sal actually catch the football? He did not.
He did not. One target, 8 plays. No catches.
How many snaps did Nate Craig get?
A lot, 50-something.
Did he really? That's crazy.
Not one target.
Not one target, though.
That's him not getting open.
No. Well, and it's him blocking well.
Sure, yeah, but he's not.
Not getting open.
How many quarterback runs? I don't know. Auburn has. Do you think cheap tickets will go cheaper? No. Like for this game? No, these will go up, man. Dude, I mean, this will be a tough ticket this weekend. Cam Martin this week. Who knows? We're done predicting what's going to happen with Cam Martin.
He had 4 carries in that first quarter. That was the most he had.
4 for 24 yards. And Carry-On said it gave him a little bit of a spark.
Did a story about that. It's up right now. Just Carry-On crediting him as kind of being the MVP because he had more carries in that kind of run than Carry-On had that first quarter, or ran more effectively, I guess. And so he called him kind of the MVP. So story up on that.
Sean says the second string play against Louisiana Monroe. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Second and third
Quite
string.
a bit.
Playoff ranking, we'll win it on this. Playoff ranking prediction for Auburn tonight. I'd say 10.
Yeah, 10.
I think it'll fall right in line with the AP and coaches poll, based off of who lost in the top 10 last week. And Auburn was already 14th.
They'll be right on the bubble at 10 either.
10 or 11, something like that. But whatever happens, if Auburn wins
out. It really doesn't matter because you got number 1, number 2, and then the SEC championship game. So all those.
Auburn wins out, they'll go to the playoff. I don't see how you keep them out.
No, there's no way.
So that's all that matters, guys. Playoff rankings and all that doesn't matter. All you need to know is Auburn wins out, they'll get in. And if they just lose one more game, they'll probably go to a New Year's Six game.
Yeah.
That's simple. If they lose both of them, they're probably going Citrus Bowl or somewhere else in Florida. So anyway, thanks for joining us. Go to auburnundercover.com for full coverage. We really appreciate you guys chatting with us. Mike's headed to basketball to get some updates. I'm headed to the home office to work on some football and make some phone calls, hopefully for a bigger feature. And we got a couple of bigger features this week coming up on the site as well if we get that all together. Thank you. Bye-bye.